Hey everybody, this is Grace. In this video, I'm going to talk about when, this is on my mind again. I made a video, I had it on this channel like months ago, and then I put it on a different channel because it goes along with the story that I have on that channel, and also made another, at least one more video about it. And it's about when, the part I want to point out is this about dissociative identity disorder and say narcissistic personality disorder, and I'll continue with those. When a person has something like some would call a split personality, or they're maybe even two-faced, and people are trying to, these days, people, just your average person that's not a counselor, that's not, I'm going to say not a counselor, not a therapist, whatever it is where you live, whatever country or whatever, the person who is there that can, they are licensed or certified or whatever it is to make diagnoses of their patients or clients, depending where you live. Here, I think it is more that you say it's their clients. Okay, unless they just changed it recently. But anyway, people who are not these, they just, or maybe wannabes, or they're just an average person. They don't know that there's this difference and that they shouldn't do this, but they will diagnose somebody with a whole personality disorder or a whole disorder all around, just a disorder. They'll not diagnose, and they may even tell other people. Great timing, huh? They may even tell other people, to give them a diagnosis of that person. This is about mental, and when they shouldn't be. And then they, as it is, they misdiagnose, as it is. Okay. Now, I'm going to say why this is on my mind. I have a video, I don't know if I'm ever going to make it public, but it's about, like, when people say narcissistic abuse, and why is it always narcissistic abuse? There are other forms of abuse, and how much can you put in under narcissistic? You have narcissistic, it's over here on the left side, and the other one's on the right. Abuse is over here on the right side, and they're not always connected. Narcissistic is their form of abuse that I can recall as exploitation. Now, the way they go about it might not even be narcissistic, what they do. Anyway, I don't want to go down that road again. But as far as this with dissociative identity disorder, what used to be called multiple personality disorder, some people are accepting of it. I've always been skeptical about it. I still don't know what I think about it. I'm being upfront and honest, put it right out there. I think that it could be very different things, like I'm going to mention. Okay, now I think many people might remember Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Okay, you can say Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Some people would say it's somebody with I don't know. Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde could be somebody with multiple personalities. Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde could be somebody thought of as bipolar. Some would say they're narcissistic. Some would say they sound more like histrionic. Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, more of antisocial. Yeah, big one. Or borderline. Or just pile everything under borderline personality disorder. They border on all the psychoses and the disorders, like personality disorders, even comorbid with this and that. You see what I'm saying? It could get to a point where, and it should, that it requires somebody who is licensed or certified, who can make these kinds of diagnoses. Diagnosis or diagnoses, and who really knows the score. They may get it wrong the first time because they're not glued to this person 24/7 to see. Maybe they do change their personalities. They have the alters come out. They're the hosts and the alters. Which one is the host? Which one's the alter? Or alters, which ones? And can a person who, this is on my mind lately, a person who's narcissistic have an empath for an alter? People call them empaths. Very empathetic person. Total opposite of the narcissist. Can they, have alters, many of them different types. Like when some people say, the narcissist will say, they don't remember saying that, they don't remember doing that. They might not. It could be multiple personalities. It could be an alter. It could be dissociative identity disorder. How would just your average person know? And these, as we all know, narcissistic people are really, some of these cluster Bs are very manipulative. Is it all of them? And it can be, maybe. They can fool a counselor or the licensed professional person, whatever it is where you live. So, yeah. Okay. But some people will just hear, it's kind of like, I want the label, I want a label to throw on it. Come on, give me a label. Instead of, in that video I mentioned, these are, whatever the behavior is that is abusive, it is abuse. It is an abusive person. But those labels, and I started saying this very early on, they are abusive. We only called them, back then, when I remember, they were abusive people. And, anyway. Okay, I got distracted there. Anyway, but one of the things I can remember many of us saying when I was younger is that, this is how I would put it. I did put it. Is that, different people wear different hats and different masks for different reasons. And I remember the first time somebody questioned me was Adam. And it was early on when I was in our marriage, really early. So it may have been in let me think. It was in the 1980s, I think 1989. And we were living in Georgia. I'm Texan. When we had moved to Georgia, we moved around a lot, and Georgia was one of them, Atlanta area. And we were downtown, and we were just getting out of our car or whatever we were driving, and a man on the sidewalk passed us by, and Adam had said, I think it was a street person, and Adam had said, made this comment that if the man had asked for a dime for a payphone, or maybe he did, and then Adam said, if it had been a banker, what would have been your reaction? If somebody comes up to you on the street and asks if they could borrow some money for a payphone, what would be the different reaction between back then we called them bums. Sorry, I don't like that term either. Or a banker, your banker. What is going to be your reaction? I remember saying, I wouldn't have a different reaction. And then I said, okay, yeah, I would. I would. And we are different ways for different people. When you go to work, you behave a certain way. You're still yourself, many of us, I'd say, are ourselves. But you have a role, actually, usually, that you have to play that role. You have to be the secretary. I don't think they use secretary and haven't for a long time, that term, but you're the boss. You have a role. Okay, you're wearing a different hat than you would be when you go outside and you go to the store. You're not the boss there. Someplace, restaurant, you're not the boss there. These kinds of things. But what people say, like they put a lot of emphasis, like I said, on narcissists, that they have this one face and then they have this other face, and the mask they're wearing, and it slips, and you see the true person, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of thing, right? which could be somebody who's bipolar, which could be somebody who's, what about schizoid? Schizophrenia, schizotypal? I don't want to go there. That was definitely not my area of specialty or knowledge. Okay, I don't have much knowledge about it, in other words. But it could be somebody who has learned a behavior of, this is the way I am supposed to be at work. I have a role. And then this is the way I am with other people. We all do this. I cannot imagine anybody who doesn't, unless they don't have anything else, you know, besides one thing. You see what I'm saying, right? Anyway, my voice is going out, but yeah, I want to delve deeper into this, because really the whole thing is, if you can accept that somebody alters more than one personality, that you can accept even that the narcissist has this side or that side, they are covert narcissists or communal narcissists, or they were so many different names, different kinds of narcissists people come up with, and they behave, you know, one way in public and one way behind the scenes, or they play one way out in the community, one way they. Okay, and now if you're going to accept that some people have multiple personalities, alters, the host alters, how are you going to diagnose? You shouldn't. Really, unless you are their counselor, licensed wherever. See, it could be very confusing. Then you go and tell people how confusing that is to them. But also, just a simple fact. Some people, they have learned they have to behave a certain way, and then they cannot behave that way. And they take their problems out on somebody. There's a spectrum, there's a continuum, there's so many things that people are throwing. But why are so many just wanting a label? Too many, as I said in that video I mentioned, is that they want to be able to point a finger at the other person and say, it's because you're a narcissist. And they want to do it in a snide way. Too many, I'm not saying everybody, too many want that so they can point the finger back at them. Are you being like them? Anyway, enough of this for now. I'll talk to you on another video. Bye.